of its vision. Tecumseh was a remarkable First Nations leader, an orator, negotiator, and warrior. He had a grand vision, a coalition of native peoples from across the continent forming an independent, sovereign First Nations state. He died at the Battle of the Thames in 1813, fighting for his vision, fighting the Americans who opposed it. But what he said, how he lived his life, still has meaning for First Nations people and other North Americans today.
Tecumseh was a great African-American leader that led the Indian race through the War of 1812 and many more struggles.
Early life of Tecumseh.
Tecumseh was born in a Shawnee village near Springfield, Ohio on the Mad River in 1768.
Since he was little, he saw the white men make Indians suffer and worried about whites taking Native American land.
Changes in the Indians' lives.
The prophet was Tecumseh's brother. His real name was Tenskwatawa, but people called him the prophet because he developed Indian religion. The prophet changed this century by spreading his teachings all over Ohio.
The peace pipe.
Tecumseh was the first Indian to have a peace pipe. Most Native Americans used the peace pipe to represent peace, but it also served for many other purposes.
The wars during Tecumseh's time. The Battle of Tippecanoe.
September 26th, Harrison sent 1,000 soldiers to Tippecanoe Creek. November 7th, 1811, Tecumseh was trying to expand his confederacy. Confederacy is an alliance between people, parties, states, and etc. for some purpose. William Henry Harrison was the governor of Indian Territory and Native Americans.
The Battle of Thames.
The Battle of Thames was a battle with the U.S. versus Great Britain and the Indians. The American army was led by General William Hull from Detroit to Canada. In this battle, the Indians and the British formed an alliance against the U.S. This was the last battle Tecumseh fought in because he was killed. Nobody knows how he died because the Indians could not identify his body after his death.
There was a fellow named Rumsey, and his motto was Rumsey Dumpsey, Rumsey Dumpsey, Richard Rumsey killed Tecumseh. And that was his claim to politics. William Henry Harrison would go on to become president of the United States with the claim of Tippecanoe and Tyler too, because he was the fellow that had the Battle of Tippecanoe and beat Tecumseh on the Thames. He was probably nowhere close to where Tecumseh fell. One American officer claimed to have taken Tecumseh's body and skinned it and turned it into a belt. And when he got home to the States, bragged about it. Now, the Shawnee tradition was that a warrior was buried as close to the place he died as possible. But his friends knew that the Americans had a price on Tecumseh's head. They knew they wanted to desecrate him. Saganash, a member of the Indian Department of mixed heritage. His father was William Caldwell, a British officer. His mother was a Mohawk woman from the Grand River. He was known as Billy Caldwell, but his traditional name was Saganash. Very reliable young man. He was heard to come out of the trees and tell some British soldiers that I saw him dying. He said that he saw Tecumseh walking away into the trees away from the battlefield, holding his hand over his chest as blood poured out over his hands. And Saganash said that Tecumseh turned to him and said, I am shot, go help the people. The most believable report to me anybody ever got, because Tecumseh's life, his focus was the people. He didn't do it for his own glory. He saw himself as a servant of his people. He had promised to never sign a treaty, never did. The Council of Three Fires, Ojibwa, Odawa, Potawatomi, they definitely had warriors with Tecumseh that day. There was trusted warriors from the north, and even from not very far north of here, and from all the way up to Ville Saint-Joseph, up near Mackinac. The most readily believable to me story is that some of those Anishinaabe warriors, those Council of Three Fires men, took Tecumseh's body away from the American line. It's believed now that the remnant of Tecumseh's bones are buried on Kejnung, the Kejwanong if you prefer, Walpole Island First Nation. And next year, 200 years from Tecumseh's death, they will rededicate their monument to him.
In conclusion, Tecumseh was a powerful and successful leader that was a great influence to the Indian race. Born in 1768, he helped change the Indian religion with his brother Prophet, developed a peace pipe to represent peace, and died in the Battle of Thames in 1813.